The terms that we use now, fake news, alternative facts, those are new, but the concepts are old. Politically, of course, everybody's always spin doctors the truth, the facts to suit their political beliefs and ideologies. Absolutely nothing new about that. I think what we're witnessing is that because we live in the age of science, we care very much about the accuracy of facts. So that bumps up against the normal distortion of facts for political purposes, ideological, religious purposes, whatever, and then it seems a little more jarring. Then there's also the influence of the academic left. So you have the right, who distorts facts for economic ideologies, religious beliefs, but the left, also the sort of postmodern deconstructionist movement that really took off in the 70s and 80s, in which there was this idea that there is no truth. The truth is, the narrative is the truth. Your narrative is your truth, my narrative is my truth, and there are no real facts. And that science is just another narrative, another story. And it doesn't have power or precedence over other forms of knowledge. And if you don't believe that there's real facts, then it becomes kind of a power struggle for who owns the narrative. So that's how you end up in these kind of culture wars of feminism or racism, the sort of racial equality, feminism, this and that move, now the trans gender movement. All these become competing stories and ideologies that come into conflict, and the facts kind of get distorted. Most scientists push back against that. They don't accept that. Most scientists don't. But nevertheless, that in academia and in social sciences and humanities, you get more influence on that. And it's the social sciences that are influencing political thought, economic theories, things like that really count for how we live socially. Well, and in part, if you want to bring Trump into it, there's many threads that lead to the Trump phenomenon, and I don't think anyone has the answer to why he won. But one of the answers is the sense of there's an elitism, that Hillary represented the cognitive elite, the East Coast intellectuals who think they know what's best for everyone else. So Trump was just a way of saying to you cognitive elite, you think you're so smart. Unfortunately, a lot of scientists get lumped into that category of elitists who think they know what's best. And so that's why you end up with things like climate change, climate science. How can that be political? Well, because the sense is you guys are going to come in here and interfere with the economy, take over business, and impose these socialistic programs on free enterprise. So it has nothing to do with the facts of climate change. It has everything to do with the sense that our ideology, our deepest moral beliefs are being challenged, and we got to fight back. Facebook, Twitter, particularly Facebook, they send you news items based on your previous items that you've clicked on. So the so-called echo chamber, the bubble, which has always been there, but harder to coordinate into one package, but social media does it in real time. So the moment you click on a New York Times article, Facebook knows, oh, this guy likes New York Times type articles, probably left-leaning, so we're going to send him more of these. Anti-Trump articles, pro-Hillary articles, anti-climate science, whatever it is. And the algorithm just knows, it's smarter than us. And so that's actually making it worse because you don't even know you're selecting. If I read the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, I know I'm actively selecting because I want to believe something. But with social media, it's just pouring in. I'm not even really paying attention. And all of a sudden, I have 10 anti-Trump articles. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is terrible. And then I go in search of something else, like, oh, wait a minute. There's another side to this. But that requires an active overriding of the social media feed. With complex issues, it's hard. Economic issues, climate issues, these are complex systems and in which the facts rarely speak for themselves. So there, the theory that you're engaging with to interpret the facts very much determines how you see them. So there you have to be careful of if there's an ideological bias behind the theory. So this is on the right, they perceive the theory of evolution to be something, there's something else going on. It has to do with atheism, and there's no morals, and communism, there's something bad, they don't know anything about it, right? But the theory has something behind it that scares them or worries them. Same thing with, GMOs, that's kind of on the left. GMOs, those companies are making a profit, and, we're modifying things beyond nature, and, so it goes both ways. Oh, yes, I think so. I mean, what we're doing, science journalism, is super important. Just sort of condensing down, here are the bullet points you need to know. White papers, summary papers, condensing of complex scientific papers into a paragraph. This is what Scientific American does. We try to do it Skeptics, what you guys do. Look, we live in a free society and a democracy. We can't outlaw bad ideas because, who's to say which are the bad ideas, right? So you got to have free speech and let people say whatever they want. But we have to counter the bad ideas with good ideas. Science and reason, critical thinking, the facts, the stuff we're talking about. I'm interested in what's true, what's really true, to the extent that we can know that. And we can. I mean, that's what science does better than any other system. So all we can do is just keep pounding away. Write better books, make better television shows, just write better articles. That's all we can do to combat it. Better web pages. You got to be on social media. You just got to keep at it. It's not easy. It's really hard. It's an endless, never-ending process. You got to be a tireless fighter for science and reason. There's lots of people now. That used to be unusual. I mean, back in the day of Carl Sagan, there was only a handful of people in the public intellectuals. That wasn't even really a thing. And he got hammered for that by professional scientists, And there's a story where he was not elected into the National Academy of Science. It's sort of the most prestigious science organization in America. And his credentials were off the charts, as good as anybody's in there. And the idea is he didn't get in because he was a popularizer of science. That's not good. Now that has changed. You have people like Brian Cox in England, Brian Greene, Lawrence Krauss, Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's a lot. Richard Dawkins. The public understanding of science is an actual university position that Charles Simonyi financed from Microsoft, and Richard was the first holder of it, and now there's somebody else that has the chair, and that's an idea. You're a public intellectual. Go out there and evangelize instead of for Jesus, for science.